Boy Who Lost His Face by Louis Sachar, 32. Tori and David's hands almost but not quite touched as their arms swung back and forth. David could still feel the spot on his arm where Tori touched him and said, "Shall we take our leave, Mr. Ballinger?" That one spot of pleasure more than made up for all the spots of pain that covered the rest of him. He looked at her walking beside him. She smiled at him. "Hey, Larry," said Ricky, "do you think you might be able to teach me some kung fu?" I don't know, Ricky. I mean, the whole thing about kung fu is knowing when to use it. It's an awesome responsibility. You have to learn great self-discipline. It takes an inner strength. Do you know what I mean?" "I think so," said Ricky. As David's arm swung forward, he let his hand brush against Tori's hand. Their hands brushed again on the backswing. Her hand came by a third time. He caught hold of her last two fingers. She didn't say a word. He didn't look at her. He didn't know if she was looking at him as he held her pinky and ring finger in the palm of his hand. Her fingers wiggled a little bit. He loosened his grip, and they both shifted their hand around so he held her entire hand. He glanced at her, and then they smiled at each other. They shifted their heads again so their fingers interlocked. They shifted their hands again so their fingers interlocked. They came to the private road leading to Mrs. Bayfield's rundown mansion. "This is her street," announced David, the sound of his own voice surprising him. The road was cool but dark. It was lined with tall trees that blocked out the sun. "It's kind of spooky," said Mo. "You guys didn't have to come if you..." David looked back and noticed Larry and Mo were also holding hands. "Don't want to." "We've come this far," said Larry. "I'm not going to turn around now." "Is she some kind of witch?" asked Ricky. He was holding Killer's leash. "She put a curse on me," said David. "That's why I've been acting like such a stooge lately. It wasn't really me, it was the curse. I didn't tell you because I didn't think you'd believe me." "I believe you," said Ricky. "I guess she put a curse on them too," he said, gesturing toward Larry and Mo. "No, we're just naturally weird," said Mo. "That's why I had to get the cane," David continued. "It belongs to Felicia Bayfield. She said she'd remove the curse if I brought it back to her." "So then what's the problem?" asked Ricky. "All you have to do is give her the cane." "It's not that easy," said Tori. "She's a wicked evil witch with all kinds of strange and magical and mystical powers. She might even put an evil spell on all of us." She squeezed David's hand. "I want to see her," said Ricky. David let go of Tori's hand and wiped his sweaty palm on his jeans. "Okay," he said, "let's go." Tori took hold of his hand again. They slowly approached the rusty iron gate. David pushed it open with the cane. He and Tori walked through first, followed by Larry and Mo, then Ricky and Killer. Killer stopped and peed in the yard. "That's the window we broke," David said quietly. "It looks as good as new," Mo whispered. "Someone must have fixed it," said Larry. "Maybe," whispered Tori. "Maybe not." "What do you mean?" asked Ricky. "Maybe when David broke your window, her window suddenly became fixed." "I just got a chill down my spine," said Larry. They stepped up the wooden stairs. "That's the rocking chair," said David. They slowly approached the door. He let go of Tori's hand. "You have to knock," said Tori. "The doorbell's broken." David opened the screen door, then turned and looked quizzically at her. "I mean, it looks broken," she said. She shrugged. "You can try it if you want." "No, it's broken," said David. He raised the shrunken head door knocker and hit it 3 times against the hardwood door. Then he stepped back and slowly closed the screen door so it wouldn't bang shut. Tori gripped David's arm with both her hands. "What if she's dead?" whispered Mo. "What if she died before she can remove the curse?" "Maybe the curse died with her," said Ricky. "No, it doesn't work that way," Larry explained. "If somebody puts a curse on you then dies, there's no way to remove the curse. And if you have children, they'll be cursed too." There was a clicking sound behind the door, then it opened a few inches. Mrs. Bayfield peered out. "I brought back the cane," said David, holding it up for her to see. So you did. The door closed and the safety chain was released and the door opened wide. Tori dropped to her knees. "Please don't hurt us," she begged. "I know you have great powers, but David Ballinger brought back the cane like he said he would, so you'll remove the curse you put on him. I just came along with David Ballinger." Mrs. Bayfield's green eyes darted from Tori to David, and then back to David. "And who, Mr. Ballinger, are these other rapscallions you brought?" Still holding hands, Mo and Larry stepped down a little too. "I'm Larry and this is Mo," said Larry. "Maureen," said Mo. "We made him pour lemonade on his head," said Larry, trying to get on her good side. David thought he saw Mrs. Bayfield start to smile, but her face quickly returned to its stern expression as she focused on Ricky. "Is that your dog?" she asked. Ricky shook his head. "It's hers," he pointed at Mo. "I'm his brother," he pointed at David. "I see," said Mrs. Bayfield. "Well, come inside, all of you. Bring the dog, too." His name's Killer, said Mo, by way of a warning. And that's the end of chapter 32.